going to kickstart today's talk by asking you all, what do you think your autobiography would include? This is important because it tells us about your life story, your narratives, your reality, your ups and downs, and your struggles. Every autobiography has a title. For example, you won't go to a movie that has no name. Come to think about it, my talk has a title, which is Addiction, Rewriting the Narratives. When you look at it, the famous figures in history, like Sigmund Freud, Winston Churchill, Ernest Hemingway, would not have the title of an addict, though they did struggle with substance use. They would be known for the phenomenal contributions they have made. I remember when I was doing my PhD in clinical psychology, the title I gave to my story was The Rising Phoenix. Because tough life, too much of hard work, absolutely no money, but great rewards. Now my title has changed and it's become the almost same empathetic juggler. I am a single working mother of 3 5-year-old 10 kids. 2 of them are twins and one is my dog. So I do juggle. Almost same because I fiercely protect that vulnerable side of me that's just a little bit off. Like it was just last week, I had gone to a resort in Nandi Hills in Karnataka that I came across this wonderful contraption called a Burma bridge. As I was walking in it, the bridge was shaking, literally. I was also shaking. I think the instructor was also shaking. But I had only one thought. It's new, it's safe, and it's between the bridge and me now. I've asked this question to a lot of my patients, and they have come up with gut-wrenching titles for their stories, like life imprisonment, do or die, a bitter pill, motion sickness, hiding behind an ice cube, the man who never cried, etc. And to change these titles into more empowering ones, we need to look at what led them to these titles, and that's the work I've been doing. Hi, I'm Dr. Gitanjali Narayanan, clinical psychologist, psychotherapist, de-addiction specialist, mentor and researcher, working in the area of addiction at NIMHANS in Bangalore. I think it was way back in 2001 when I was doing my training. A person came and said, Gitanjali, only slap therapy works with addicts. I don't endorse the word addicts, by the way. Only slap therapy. I think that acted as a tipping point for me to work in the area of addiction. According to the National Survey on Extent and Pattern of Substance Use in India, which was done in 2019, about 57 million individuals are addicted to alcohol in India. That's more than 5% of the population. Every 1 person out of 5 alcohol users is addicted to alcohol. The fact that even in Bangalore you have more than 2,000 pubs probably contributes to that statistics. Essentially, if I were to ask you, do you know any one family, friend or colleague who is addicted? The chances are that you will say yes. My theory is very simple and I have been working on this for a while now. Consider a triangle and the 3 sides of the triangle include personality vulnerabilities, psychological trauma and addictions. They all have a relationship with each other and one feeds into the other. But, and it's a big but, that apart from these personality vulnerabilities, there are opportunities to get personality strengths, which has the capacity to cut the addiction cycle. And that's the work that I have been doing as well, especially if there is a fellow traveler along the way. So what I'm saying is, can be very simply summarized in 3 points. Firstly, addiction is a narrative that we have heard time and again, and it's become part of our social and our personal identities. 2, to understand the narrative, we need to understand the personality of the narrator, that is the drug user. And 3, to be able to get control in one's life, we need to be able to rewrite these narratives with more positive narratives that give hope and meaning to the life of the individuals. To explain this a little more, I would like us to go back in time to the childhood story of the thirsty crow. For those who don't remember that story, it was a long, tiring day. The crow was parched and he was looking for water. He found the water. He used his analytical mind to put stones inside the pot of water till the water level came up. He drank it and the relief was immediate. Now think about an individual with addiction. Same behavior, but the drug or the substance has substituted a primary need. And I wanted to know what are these needs and what happens during the course of a person's life that leads to addictions. So for this, I needed to look at the narratives. How do you change the narrative or life story of a person? To me, it's a profoundly philosophical question, because changing narratives doesn't come overnight by waving a magical wand. It takes time for us to understand the individual and their life stories to create new scripts. I have discovered few points that I want to share with you about my journey into understanding narratives. The first point I want to make is, when it comes to personality, there is no before and after. Personality changes with time, it evolves, and when you look at an individual, it's seamless and defined by some definitive moments that they've had, like a new career, a new academic profile. All my patients that I've met have said that their lives was not picket fences, picture perfect because they got hooked. Wasn't like that. There was no before and after. There was immense pain, there was trauma, there were struggles, betrayal, isolation, grief. They had stigma, loss of self-respect, stripped of their dignity, and people looking at them with either disgust or pity. And I think it's important for us then to be able to give a voice to these people and look at their identities, and each of these definitive experiences changed them. The second point I have realized is that we need to really go away from the cause and effect approach that we use to understand addiction. Everyone struggles, but not everyone gets addicted. So I thought to myself, what is different here? I was super happy when I got trained in the neuroscience model. I thought, okay, it's because of genetics, family history, the reward pathways of the brain circuitry. It's because of stable personality traits such as impulsivity, emotional dysregulation, risk-taking, the novelty-seeking. The list is very endless, and these cannot be changed. But with time, I realized that I needed to go away from these models because they have become crutches, not solutions. I had to literally unlearn my textbook knowledge of symptom management and just look at the person irrespective of what are all the areas or problems that led to the addiction. It is not in fact being led to addiction, it is addiction as one of the parts of a much larger personality of the individual. The third thing I realized was about how we approach people who have addiction. Now, people who have been suffering from any kind of addiction are often said to be resistant to change, resistant to therapy, or quote unquote in denial. There is a real culprit here, and it's called giving advice. Now, if you go to any person who's having addiction and you give advice to them, unless they ask for it, chances are you're going to be kicked out straight away. But just go to any one such person and say, hey, it's not your fault, and I'm there with you. And see the beauty of change happen with such individuals. I've had some experiences with patients and I want to share that. For example, there was one patient who told me that he used to take cough syrup to lull his pain because his parents had told him he had to join MBBS and give up his dream of being a designer. There was another patient who had a lot of facial hair for which she was body shamed and she sought solace in taking alcohol. Yet another patient took Tramadol for her body pains and soon it became her go-to way of coping with stress. One patient saw his brother jump off a running train. Yet another patient saw his entire family of 13 members go away or die in an instant when there was a bus accident that they were involved in. These are their stories, and these are what is important for us to understand. In the context of how we approach patients, I think another thing that I've realized is we need to have the 3 A's with us. That is awareness, it includes acknowledgement and availability. Availability because it's very unique to addiction population. Being with a person who has addiction actually requires you to keep away your ethics, your morality, your right and wrong, and actually contest with that. Because we want to actually be there with the person, and that helps a lot in the treatment that I've done. Finally, the fourth thing I realized was that it's very important for us to actually get stories from the patients themselves. Most of my answers came from the patients. They showed hope, courage, and despite being battle-weary, they were still able to make something of their lives. I remember this one patient called Sam. He was 22 years old when he came to me 2 years back. I remember the first session I had, his face was literally expressionless. He spoke in monosyllables. 30 minutes into the session, I felt that Sam had constructed this wall which I was not permitted to cross. So I did the one thing that I was permitted to do. I waited. With time, as the sessions progressed, Sam used to come regularly for sessions and I knew he was interested. I found out that there were repetitive themes of meaninglessness, emptiness, and a lot of depression. As we started talking about it, he mentioned that he always puts on a mask of being alright, which if he removes, will show to others what a phony he is. Now, all of us have to put our game face on from time to time. For example, if you're going through a difficult time or a breakup, you're not going to go and reveal that to everyone else. You're going to just keep it aside and get going. But with Sam, he did not know what he was keeping aside. To be able to feel something, anything, he started cutting his wrists. Just imagine, a person needs to feel physical pain to experience that they are still alive. Soon he started taking alcohol and a cocktail of drugs including benzos. It seemed like feels nothing, wants to feel something, therefore cuts, feels nothing, angst about feeling nothing, therefore escapes by doing drugs. We literally had to rework his story chapter by chapter, narrative by narrative, to be able for him to come to some understanding and acceptance of who he was. His title for his story was The Forgotten Graveyard. And as we started working on his narratives of sessions, finally we also looked at the map that we drew for his personality strengths, which included him being resourceful, thoughtful, creative, bright, kind, etc. And it helped him to move away from him being a victim to him being someone who did his best to cope with the life he was having in his past. The process is still ongoing, but Sam no longer sees his problem of addiction or drug use as the solution to his other larger problems. In other words, like the story of the thirsty crow, he now goes for things that he really finds meaning in and makes life worth it. The title of his story now is Sunrise, Sunset. Thanks a lot, you've been a wonderful audience.